Welcome to Lesson 5 of our preparation for our Israel tour. In Lesson 5, we will continue with our Hebrew lessons. We'll also discuss tour days 1 through 3 and the first full day of our tour visiting Caesarea Maritima, Mount Carmel, Megiddo, Nazareth, and Tiberias. We'll also discuss our second part of survey of the Old Testament, the first part of the Great Galilean Ministry, and also looking at dining, dietary concerns, and menu. Thus far, you've learned much about greetings in Hebrew and how to introduce yourselves. Today, we will learn how to say please, you're welcome, thank you, yes and no. To say please and you're welcome, bevakasha, bevakasha. For thank you, toda. For yes, ken. For no, lo. Let's look at tour days 1 through 3. We'll begin our travels by flying from LAX directly to Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, Israel. We will arrive in the afternoon and we will spend the rest of the day adjusting to the new time zone and trying to recover from jet lag. We'll be in Tel Aviv and in close proximity to Joppa, ancient Joppa, and we will recommend that we will take a walk there. Our first tour day, we will visit these sites following this route: to Caesarea, then to Mount Carmel, to Nazareth, and then to the Sea of Galilee at Tiberias. First, we will visit Caesarea Maritima. Now, Maritima means by the sea. There will be 2 Caesareas that we visit. Caesarea is located on the northern end of the Sharon Plain between Tel Aviv and Haifa. Haifa is one of Israel's major cities. There are many significant areas of the site that we will visit. We will start at the theater. We will walk alongside Herod's promontory point. This is significant in the life of Paul. We will walk alongside the hippodrome to the ancient harbor. Caesarea was given to King Herod by Caesar Augustus in 30 BC, and construction was begun by Herod in 22 BC. The city was named after the giver, and the port was named Sebastos, which is Greek for Augustus. This is the place where Herod decided to make a port city, even though its shoreline was very flat and not really lending itself to a port. But he developed this with construction brilliance. We will first visit the theater, and then we will advance to the area of the palace. You'll also see remains of an ancient swimming pool. In the hippodrome, we will remember that Herod Agrippa died because of his pride, and the book of Acts says that he was eaten by worms. The construction marvel is Herod's Herodian harbor, in which he developed a system of dropping materials that, when meeting the salt water, hardened to a cement type material and enabled them to build a harbor jetting out into the sea. You also see some remains in the city walls from a later period, from the Byzantine Crusader period. As Caesarea grew, it needed access to more water, and the aqueduct system accomplished this. Leaving Caesarea, we will travel to the Jezreel Valley over Mount Carmel, and we will take the Megiddo Pass. There are three main passes between the west side of Mount Carmel into the Jezreel Valley. Mount Carmel is often used in the scripture as an analogy for things beautiful. Mount Carmel means orchard with fruit trees and vines. Mount Carmel is composed of hard limestone, and thus the coast does not erode it. The chain of mountains runs northwest to southeast for nearly 15 miles. At the summit of Mount Carmel is the location of Muhraha. Looking down from Muhraha into the Jezreel Valley is the traditional spot of Elijah's battle with the prophets of Baal. It's a great scenic point for seeing some significant sites, locations in the Jezreel Valley, including Nazareth, Mount Tabor, the Hill of Moreh, Mount Gilboa. These two pictures show the Jezreel Valley from two different vantage points. In the Jezreel Valley, we will visit Megiddo. Megiddo was a very strategic point in the Jezreel Valley and specifically guarded the Megiddo Pass, the route between the coastal highway, or the coast, and the Jezreel Valley. Here's a picture of the Megiddo Pass. East is on the left side and west is on the right side. It's looking south, east. Tel Megiddo, Mount Megiddo, is an archaeological marvel. Archaeologists have excavated 26 levels of the site. That means 26 levels of occupation. Because of its strategic nature, it was also a city in high demand between opposing forces. This means that the city was destroyed often. We will see two gatehouses, one a Canaanite gate, which is a 4-chamber gate, 2 on each side, making 4 chambers, and then we will see the Israelite gate, dating back to the time of Solomon. It is a 6-chamber gate, 3 on each side. There's also remains of an ancient Canaanite altar, as well as a water system. Steps leading down to the water system show what efforts were made to bring the water source, which was outside of the city, to connect to a passage that led from inside of the city for defensive purposes. We will also visit Nazareth. Nazareth is on the northwest edge of the Jezreel Valley. It sits upon a cliff. In this first picture, you can see the modern city looking south to the Jezreel Valley. The Jezreel Valley is the dip in the horizon. Although a major city today, Nazareth was but a village in ancient times. Jesus spent his boyhood here. A church marks the place of the annunciation or the announcement to Mary of Jesus being born, or that Jesus would be born to her. in the year 384, a Christian pilgrim notes that there was a big and very splendid cave where Mary was said to have lived. This is the location of the church today. In Nazareth, we may visit a reenactment site which seeks to reenact the life of a small village, the village of Nazareth. The final stop on tour day 1 is our hotel in Tiberias. Tiberias is on the west side of the Sea of Galilee. This is looking south to Tiberias. The Sea of Galilee is in the distance. Tiberias is located on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. It was founded by Herod Antipas, son of Herod the Great, on the site of a yet older city called Rachath. Tiberias is named explicitly only 3 times in the Gospels. We will stay for 2 nights along the Sea of Galilee. Beautiful views and times to remember all that Jesus did around this body of water. Let's continue, though, with our survey of Old Testament history. This is part 2 when we look at the divided monarchy, the time after Solomon when the kingdom divided in 2, 10 tribes in the north led by Jeroboam I, and Rehoboam leading the southern kingdom of Judah. Specifically, it would be helpful for you to remember the date of 722 BC. That's the fall of the northern kingdom to the Assyrians. 586, Jerusalem being destroyed and led off to exile. 537, Cyrus decreeing that Jews may return to Jerusalem. And 444, when Nehemiah directs the rebuilding of the Jerusalem's walls. Let's look at the Great Galilean Ministry, Part 1. This is a time when Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit to Galilee, and a report went about him to all the region. He taught in their synagogues. One synagogue was that of Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as was his custom, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, and he stood up to read. He was handed the book of Isaiah, and spoke and directed that it spoke about him. Because of his rejection, he moved his family from Nazareth to Capernaum. In Capernaum, he also taught in the synagogue, and was opposed by a man possessed by a demon, which he cast out. From this starting point, he also sent out his disciples on a preaching tour in the northwest area of the Sea of Galilee. Let's discuss our tour practicals. A typical breakfast, as seen, contains many varieties of salads, pastas, fresh vegetables and fruits, dried fruits and oatmeal, cheeses, fish options, eggs, omelets, pastries, bread, cereal. Many tasty, popular foods for lunch include falafel, shawarma, hummus, pita, borechas. We will go to places with hamburgers as well. Israel doesn't have Starbucks, but they do have Stars and Bucks. Their popular chain is Aroma Espresso Bar. A typical dinner meal has side salads, options for grilled chicken, turkey, meat, fish, cheeses, fruits, vegetables, and breads. Friday night is the Shabbat meal or Sabbath meal. It's very similar to the previous dinners, but also with challah bread, and chicken soup is very traditional. Lesson 5 review. Bevakasha, please and you're welcome. Toda, thank you. Ken, lo. Ken is yes and lo is no, which takes us to 58 days remaining before our trip.